Alright, hey, joining me again, Mission, and today I'm going to share with you another episode of How to Work Out from Home, Season 4, Episode number 4. So if you watched the last episode 2, where we talk about how to do what I call my favorite Big 5 exercise, right? Just 5. Last week we also talked about how to do the exercise, how to do the programming. That means like you're strong, or you do. Today is a little bit on finer details. So I highly recommend if you want to check, you check the previous one on the episode number 2, which you can find it in the YouTube channel. I'll put a link at the end of the show so you guys can have a look. But at the same time, also you guys want to just how to do today I also talk about how to do some variation, and last but not least also how you can avoid some mistakes, and yeah, I think that's about it, right? So a bit more what I call finer points. Alright, last week was like how to do it, so I won't go so much about like how to directly do it, maybe just a quick refreshment, but nevertheless you learn all the variation and some of the variation and some to avoid the mistakes. Alright, so the first exercise we talk is always a squat, right? So let's say it's a squat, right? If it's too easy, let's say you're going to do a lot of reps, maybe you're not a fan of doing a lot of reps, you can actually increase the difficulty a little bit. So I'll show you how it's done here. So you guys have a look while I reduce this down. Okay, so using the squat for example, right? You go all the way down and so on, right? So usually someone side view, it's the same. You go down and all the way up, all the way down, all the way up, right? So if I use a household item, I think last week we used the luggage, so I'll use the luggage one more time for scale here. So let's say if the luggage is very light or it's too heavy for you, or you don't like to do a lot of reps, you can do this variation, which is like you do a tempo or you can do a pause. So I'll show you what it means here. So tempo means when you go down, there's a certain speed lah, right? So you can play around with the tempo. So I'm showing you an example. This is a tempo of 3 count. So you can try this at home also if you want to. So example, right? When you go down, 1, 2, 3, and then up. 1. Okay, again here. So you take a nice big breath, and the belly, go down 1, 2, 3, okay, and come up. So how much tempo should you need? My suggestion, you can go anything between 3 to 5 seconds, right? So example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop a while, up. So these are some examples. If you want to do your regular way, but you don't like to do a lot of reps as I share with you, you can actually use the same technique, if you will, right? So example, 1, 2, come up, also can, right? So example, you do 1 second only, 1, and then come up. It depends on you. The slower the tempo, usually the harder it is, right? So example, you are limited with weights, try a 5-second one, right? Or even go, yeah, I think 5 seconds would be great. So what you don't want to do is do like 10 seconds, right? So example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 10. It's so slow. Besides, when you do a lot of reps, you will find tired on your hand before you even feel your legs. So these are some things you want to avoid, right? So aside from the doing the tempo as well, another version you can do is you can do a pause. So meaning when you're at the bottom, right, you want to really stop there for 1 second and not moving. What you don't want to do, this is again common mistake here, when some people do a pause, when they do a pause, right, they will do what I call a double bounce. So if I show you guys a little bit, let me just move this around. Okay, so you guys can see. So a common mistake, let's say I'm holding the item, right, when you're stopped here, make sure you're pausing. If you're pausing, right, you feel a lot in your hamstring, a lot in your core. So common mistake people do when they pause, they will do a double dip. So that means they will like this, and then they come again. Again, I'll show you. Okay, so don't double bounce, or even worse, just don't pause long enough and come up. So you want to go down, really control, pause a while. The pause a while is to teach you how to use your core and also learn how to use the entire leg body. So again, yeah, so you're at the bottom, give it pause for around 1 second, 1 or 2 seconds. So you do properly, you feel a lot on your core, a lot on your thigh, right? So that's why I always say, even on previous video, is that if you do all the big movement, the compound movement properly, you will actually train your core already. You don't have to do like direct ab training exercise. For most people, I'm not saying doing ab exercise is bad, but it's a better use of your time. So once again, yeah, just a quick recap. You can increase difficulty by doing a tempo. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up. Okay. Also, you can do a pause. That means you go down. 1, 2. There you come up. Right. So make sure you don't double bounce or the tempo too slow. Right. Or too fast. For most people, the tempo 3 to 5 seconds should do you very good already. Right. Give it some thought. Give some try. Then, as I say, if you don't like to do a lot of reps, you can try this approach. Right, so the next one is I'm going to do the floor press. Okay, so let me just move the camera. The floor press is also quite straightforward lah, this exercise. So you guys can see, right? Awesome, cool. So what can we do on the floor press? Alright, the floor press is basically just to feel more on the chest and more on the back as well. So just give me a while I adjust this here. Okay, I'm going to put lower actually. Hang on. Okay, so how to do this properly, right? You want to do a floor press. So you can either use water bottle or the luggage. So you keep it. You can see, right? Okay, cool. Let me just move a bit in front. Yeah. So you want to do it. Keep your chest up, back tight, all the way down, all the way up. Once it touches at the bottom, don't relax. Keep it tense here. Once it's down here, push all the way up. Right? So one variation you can do, I'll just show it for learning purposes. So you can use a luggage or a broomstick with water bottles. So when you go down, you can also do the tempo 1, 2, 3, and press. Or you can do the pause. Meaning you go at the bottom, you pause for 2 or 3 seconds. You're not resting here. You are keeping your back and chest as high as you can within the 2-3 seconds, and then you go up all the way. Right. This is some ways to increase the difficulty, so it's easier for you to. I said that don't have to do so many reps. You can do this for more. So when you go down, keep your chest up, back tight. Don't relax, yeah. And you can pause there for a while, depending how you want. Right. For most people, you can do a tempo, meaning you can do like 2 or 3 seconds, so on. I'll use push-up for another example if you want to, right? So when you go all the way down, there's always full range of motion, yeah? When you go all the way down, you can either do the classic off, all the way up, all the way down. If this is too easy for you, that means you can do more than 10 reps, more than 15 reps. You can try this approach, which is you do a tempo. You can go down like 3 to 5 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then up. Again, 1, 2, 3 seconds also can. Then you press up. Okay? So these are some variations you can do on the pause or even tempo. Right? So very straightforward, quite easy, clear cut. So avoid the mistake where do it too. The variation has mistake also. So I always see people, they're not consistent with the variation. So when they're starting, right, they tell themselves they want to do 3 counts of tempo. 1, 2, 3, push. 1, 2, 3, push. Okay? They always do like this. But when things get tougher, right, the 3 seconds no longer looks like a 3. So they'll become like 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It should be 1, 2, 3, push. So point is, keep it very consistent. How you do your count, I would say don't cheat to yourself. Don't make the 1, 2, 3 becomes a 1, 2, 3.
So you really want to make sure you are more engaged and more consistent with your form. These are some common mistakes we notice lah. Right? So the third exercise, just give me a while here. Okay, so the third exercise of the big five is to do some sort of variation of the rows, right? So the variation of the rows is for you to feel on your back. So the very typical standard, chest up, all the way down. Last week we have already talked about the techniques. What are some mistakes? This one is on the variation end here. So just give a bit of twist, right? There's a lot of way you can do. Equipment aside, you can also change. The good thing about the rows, you can change your grip also. So, example, if you are the barbell, or the dumbbell, instead of holding like this, you can actually try palms up. That means you go like this instead of holding like this, right? In terms of building muscle-wise, not much of difference, but this is just to create some variation for most people, alright? So I don't know if you guys can see or not. So, alright. So as you can see, my hands are up here. This is the variation. You see the hand palms are facing up here. The palms facing up, all the way up, all the way down, all the way up, all the way down. So from the side view, okay, all the way up, all the way down, all the way up, all the way down. So the variation, you can try reverse grip or the neutral grip, right? Alright, another version you can do this is same also, you can play around the tempo. Personally, there's another one I prefer more, is learn how to pause a bit longer at the top. So, meaning, most people once they touch the belly, they put all the way down. If you have trained with me before, or you might have seen other people do as well, when you go at the top, don't just bounce on your belly. I always emphasize on squeezing at the top for at least 1 or 2 seconds. So you really know you're squeezing and not just using momentum, right? Because you're here to lift weights, not to move weights, yeah? So I'll give you an example. So I'll show you a traditional one here, a very conventional method there. So just touch all the way down, all the way up, all the way down, right? What you want to do is to really squeeze 1, 2, go down, control. 1, 2, go down, control. Final one. 1, 2, go down. So you notice I pause 2 seconds at the top, right? Just to make sure you're really squeezing, you can feel the back. Instead of, when you go down, you just feel very, just bouncing around your chest, what we call. So you really want to take this, try this variation out, right? So the mistake to avoid this one is, you don't want to bounce. The variation is, you can try to squeeze at the top for 2 seconds, and you can alter the grip, right? Give it some thought. Changing the grip wise also, you might find it a bit interesting, right? So the next one I will do is a shoulder press. Shoulder press also pretty much like the rows I showed just now. The only difference is you're just going up and down instead of from the bottom like this, alright? So again, if you want to know more detail how to do the exercise, you should watch it on last week's episode number 2, where I cover more in detail. This is more on the variation part here. So next thing you want to do is, as you can see over here, wait, hold up. Maybe I can, maybe let me just move the camera a bit higher so you all can see at the top also. Alright. Wait there. Okay, so just to show you guys from the here, all the way up, all the way down, alright? So a good form will be all the way straight, obviously, control all the way down. At the same time, you also want to make sure it's on the ear level. You don't want to go in front, don't go too behind, it should be just like the top here. So when all this criteria is met, the variation you can do is as the following. So not just on, I'll touch on the tempo, I will change the technique later, yeah. So all the way up, 1, this is all done slow motion, yeah. Up you fast, down you control, up you fast, down you control. Okay, so that is all. So how you want to increase the difficulty or some variation? My suggestion, because for most people, if you're using household item, increasing the weight, either you don't have resources to increase the weight, or even worse, if you increase the weight, it may be a little bit heavy to the extent you cannot feel the muscles, you just feel tired, right? So to avoid this problem, one variation you can do is very simple, is to do it seated. So you can take a chair, you do the same thing, the pressing, right? The same thing on the pressing, but you do it seated. So when can you put in seated or standing? It's quite simple. Standing will be easier than sitting because if you're standing, you can use your leg strength. So let's say if you can do a rep, you can do up to like 30 reps, you know, of the presses, no problem. It's very light. Then maybe you can do a seated. That means you put a chair, you sit down, and then you just keep doing. But don't sit down and jump straight to 30. You're gonna have a hard time. Start small. Try maybe 10 reps, 12 reps first. You see how this plays out. Right. So if you can do 12 reps, good. The next session, try to go 15. Try to go 17, then 20, and so on and so forth. Right. So there's always a lot of way to increase the variation. So what happens when you sit? The weight you do is is also starting to get very light. First of all, good job. It means you're getting stronger. Second, of course, to increase the difficulty is when you go down, you control. So example, right? Once you push all the way up, you go down. There's a slight control. 1, 2, 3. Right? You can also use pause as a technique. So example, right? Maybe I use this. I use back the weights so you have an idea. So all the way up. When you go down 1, 2, 3, you pause 1 second at the top, at the bottom. Sorry, 1 second. Then you press up again. 1, 2. Then you pause again. Right? So you can try some of this technique where you pause 1 or 2 seconds at the bottom. At the same time, you keep as high as you can. So just very simple basic stuff. Alright, so recap for the shoulder press, you can either do it seated or you can control all the way tempo. If you're standing, you're getting stronger, try seated. If seated, you're getting stronger also, you can do a variation. Or you can do a combination of both, whichever way you like. Right? So whatever happens, make sure the form is the same. And number 2, make sure that the workout quality is there. It means you not just move around and you don't know what happened. Ask yourself, can you feel those muscles or not? Are you getting some effort, or are you just swinging around? You're swinging around, either you back off the weight and work on the form, right? So you want to see how this is going, right? Sorry, just a moment. Okay, so this is done. The next one you want to do is exercise number 4. The last final one is more on the plank. Okay, right. So just give me some time here. The last one is on the plank. So how to do on the plank, right? The plank is very simple. So the plank, you just want to. Okay, so the plank, right? The plank is very simple. So you want to keep it here, right? Just over here, right? So this is a classic plank. If you want to make it easier, you can put on like a bench. You can do it higher. So I don't have a bench, I'm sorry, but you can put a cushion or a bench so you put on top. So another variation is you can do is what I call we call it a side plank. So instead of the traditional 2-way, this is to train the obliques, the side of the plank. So what you do is you place here, you keep all the way up. So if you stay like this, you should be able to feel here, right? So you don't want to go down, keep going up, right? That's all. So from the side view, it's the same. All the way up, keep it high. You don't go all the way down, all the way up. just keep this high. Right, these are some variation of the plank. Right, so recap, all the exercise today we do, you notice I mentioned a lot of pause, a lot of tempo, so you can try some of these. You can do it seated, standing, or whichever applicable accordingly. And last but not least, when you do the plank, you can do a side plank, all the simple stuff like this, right? So if you side plank is too hard, no worry, you can always do you can always change the variation. Instead of doing plank, you can do a dead bug. So remember the dead bug, right? So you can do the same thing, right? Or you can do the bird dog. There's so many ways you can alter, right? So there's a lot of variation on the core. Core is a bit more what I call more versatile, right? So what you don't want to do is, with that being said, I know it's very tempting, but you really want to train. Yeah, core is important, but you make sure you do your big movement first, the big four, the big five, right? You do the rest first. Do the plank last, or you do it first, but don't go and replace ab exercise for other ab exercise, because number one, the payload is lesser. Number two, you won't get results. How do I say? Don't want to deceive you, I would say. This is reason number two, because a lot of people, they think doing more core exercise is going to help them lose belly fat. Truth is, it doesn't work like that. So you better be more what is that called? More conservative and just follow, right? So I guess that's it. Once again, thank you so much. And yeah, wait, alright. Okay, so thank you so much for watching again. So I hope you guys learned something, or at least I can benefit you guys. So remember, whatever you do, work out from home, keep it consistent. Form is great, keep the form great, and don't hesitate to try some variation that we mentioned today, right? So if you just tune in, you just missed the previous one, don't worry. Archive everything in YouTube so you can have a look here. Right, so that's all for me, and I hope you guys take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you on next Tuesday, right? So that's it, bye bye.